Everybody, all right. Today we're talking about seducers and seduction. Seduction, if you think about it, it's like the first cousin to anticipation. It's something that we enjoy on a whole lot of levels. Even when it comes to planning our vacations, you know, there's a whole lot of things that people think about when they're anticipating. They have this curiosity of what things are going to be like. They start to look very intensely at what the possibilities are and what the most appetizing things are. Their fantasy starts to ignite on certain details and certain areas and certain ways in which you could think you could stimulate yourself or others. Seduction slows things down, and it's that slow is like when a dancer, I guess, or someone starts to slowly take their clothes off, or slowly start to impress you with every detail of how a person moves, or how people anticipate each other by flirting, by showing off certain parts of yourself. These are things that our imaginations go over and over and over and over. And, as we slow things down, we think that we're moving towards something. And that's another part of seduction and being a seducer. And being a seducer takes in all kinds of detail. One of the most important languages of a seducer and seduction is your meta communication, which is a nonverbal communication. That is your eye contact, your body proximity. You know, that 2 foot body space that you have around you. Some people have 3 foot, depending on what city you live in. But this body space that we have is a space that we notice when other people are in our presence or in that space. And when people are in that space, that is your intimacy zone. And that intimacy zone has only certain people that are allowed to have permission to come into that zone. And so when people enter into that zone, that is a familiarity in which can develop into seduction and intimacy. Some people go into the idea of seduction by just hugging each other, or touching each other, or just glancing at each other, being in that body space, being behind each other. We have this thing called intuition, and our intuition is a very big part of seduction. Intuition is what reads when someone is interested in us, whether behind us, in front of us, beside us. We have an instinct within us that knows that someone has a special interest in us. And that part of us is kind of spiritual, because it goes back to our soul. And that means our soul understands when someone wants to be with us and when we want to be with them. And people also recognize traits within each other that are similar. And that is another part of seduction, is trying to find that area of similarity, which may or may not be conscious, and you recognize that, and by recognizing that, it becomes familiar because it's familiar to you. We recognize traits in other people that are up our own traits, and that's what happens in seduction. In seduction, if it's effective, if it's truly, as far as attraction is concerned, that is what attracts us to other people, that they have qualities that we know about ourselves, and they have that within us, within them, and we recognize that, and it feels very much like home to us. And so we have to, as people, have to understand that the laws of attraction are both conscious and unconscious. But the key to seduction is this, is to think about how things are going to be, igniting that emotional fantasy life, assigning emotions of passion and purpose and desire. All of these very powerful emotions are assigned when we are seducing or when we are being seduced. To truly understand seduction, you got to delve into the foundations of attraction. And it's probably most understood from an evolutionary perspective. And basically, attraction serves a real important purpose. It helps us select suitable mates for reproduction and survival. And our ancestors who were attracted to healthy, fertile partners were more likely to pass on their genes, and it shapes the preferences we see today. So physical appearances plays a huge role in your initial attraction. We are drawn to symmetrical faces, clear skin, body shapes that signal health and fertility, certain types of pheromonal smells, and it's interesting. What's considered attractive can be it varies, and it varies widely across cultures and time periods. In some societies, fatter or plumper people are prized because they are seen as healthy and having more material wealth. And then in others, lean physique is ideal. And this variable suggests that while we have some innate preferences, our perception of attractiveness is also heavily influenced by cultural norms and personal experiences. But seduction goes far beyond just looks. Nonverbal and body language often speak louder than words in the game of attraction. A smile, a lingering gaze, a subtle touch can convey interest and spark attraction. And these nonverbal signals tap into our primal instincts, often bypassing our conscious thought and our processes. And if you think about it, it's interesting that our sense of smell also plays a critical role in attraction. The power of scent and pheromones in a human attraction has been subject of fascination for researchers. It's even in some perfumes and colognes. And while the existence of human pheromones is also debated, there's no denying that scent can evoke powerful emotions and memories. A whiff of a cologne might remind you of a past lover. The scent of a freshly baked cookies can transport you back to your childhood kitchen. The scent psychology demonstrates how your olfactory senses, your breathing, your taking air in, can influence our behavior and emotions in subtle and very profound ways. And this is seen in animals across the board, especially dogs and cats. You know, you got to also look at psychological principles that come to play in the art of seduction. And one of the most powerful is the principle of reciprocity. And what is reciprocity? When someone does something nice for us, we feel compelled to return the favor. In the context of seduction, this might manifest as a charming individual buying you a drink, leaving you feeling obligated to engage in a conversation. So if people do something nice for you, you believe that you owe them something back. And so oftentimes reciprocity is a way of flirtation. There's scarcity also that is a part of it. We tend to value things that are rare or in short supply. And this is why playing hard to get can sometimes be an effective strategy to seduction. By creating the perception that their time or attention is limited, a person increases their desirability. And this is human nature. We only have this window. We only have this amount of time. We've got to make the best of it. There's also social proof is another powerful force of attraction. We're more likely to find someone attractive if others find them appealing. And that's why having a wingman or a wingwoman could be so effective because they set the stage for this person. They give the lead up to what this person's all about, to why they're so important, to why they're so attractive. It's also why celebrities often seem more attractive than they might be if they were just regular people, because their social status acts as a form of social proof. And you can't underestimate the role of mystery and intrigue. Humans are naturally curious creatures, and we're drawn to what we don't fully understand. Mystery can make a person seem more intriguing and attractive. And that's why revealing information about yourself gradually rather than all at once can be an attractive seduction strategy. These people that do this, I got to dump all my information on you on the first date, that's not very sexy. And that gives a lot of content, and that content maybe plays in your detriment. So what you want to think is you want to have some sense of mystery to you. You must have things that people notice about you. While understanding psychological principles, it's also to master seduction requires a high level of emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? And what it is the idea that I learn how to assign emotion to you. I learn how to assign emotion to a circumstance. I learn how to assign emotion to my child having a hard time. I learned how to assign emotion to my sexual encounters. I learned how to assign it to a certain feeling that I want to elicit from you. Emotional intelligence sends emotional cues that elicit back what we need. And that may come through empathy. Empathy is a great way in which we can engage another person and also elicit our own emotions, managing towards another person and running parallel, or if not converging with their emotions. Being able to read and respond to emotional cues from other people is huge. So, people that are good at seduction and seducing are very good at being able to read those emotional cues, to understand what people's priorities are. People are walking billboards. If you really think about it, 70% of all communication is meta communication, nonverbal. People have their appearances, they have their attitudes, they have the way they walk, the way they hold themselves, they have the way they, what they're interested in, where their eye contact goes, where their how their body is positioned when they're sitting. There's so many cues that you can look at non-verbally in a person and read them very, very well. And it's also self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. How am I coming across? What cues am I sending? How am I sending? What am I coming across like? Am I coming across like an idiot? Am I coming across like a goof? Somebody that's very funny, a clown? Am I coming across as somebody that's intelligent? How do you want to come across? Because how you come across is going to be the emotional triggers of what you elicit. There's strengths and weaknesses that allow you to navigate social situations. One of the greatest things that makes people attractive, surprisingly, is a witty person, someone who has intelligent humor. Intelligent humor is not humor that makes other people feel like crap. Intelligent humor is humor that you have about yourself or things that you are very, very interested in, observations that are uncanny that you're able to make unique lead to your character. And this, if you have a sense of humor, means that you are what's called a resilient person. You have the ability to bounce back. You don't come with as much baggage as most depressed and anxious people are. So what you are is if you have a sense of humor, at least you have the ability to be resilient. Well, that puts you on top of the food chain. It also helps you understand why you're attracted to certain people. It enables you to present your best self in interactions. So, emotional intelligence is very important to have within yourself. And that means that I decide what emotions I assign. Emotions are meant to follow our interest. That means I have an idea, I have something that I want to do, like take a test or take a class or go to my job or face a certain customer, and I want to assign an emotion to that event. And by doing that, that's how I make memories. If you think about it, every single memory you've ever had and ever will have is elicited by the emotion you attach to it. Every memory you're going to make is going to be elicited by the emotion you attach to it. That is how we operate. Now, depressed and anxious people will lead with their emotions, and that means I don't feel like going to work. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like having intimacy with you. I don't feel like helping. I don't feel like doing anything. And that's what depressed and anxious people do. They do what they feel instead of what they think, and therefore they don't exist. They cope with life and they generally are in a stalemate because they have to do what they feel, not what they think. Now, emotional intelligence means you do what you think and not what you feel. Building rapport and emotional connection is a critical part of seduction. And this involves finding common ground, observations, things that you hear a person say, the interest and the curiosity that you have in another person. You know, you seem to have a certain kind of accent. Oh, I notice you're wearing these kind of clothing. It's kind of a cold day and you're wearing, clothes that aren't, that warm. Noticing a person's very distinct decisions about themselves is a way to find common interest with them. But if it's something that you would do or something you can understand, that is where you're going to find a much deeper common interest in someone. Sharing experiences that you find that they may have that you have, creating a sense of understanding, mutual appreciation. Yeah, you know what? I thought that when I went to that game. I thought that about that person too. Oh, when I was watching that event, I was thinking the same thing. That's how we start connecting with other people. There's also romantic seduction, where emotional intimacy is often as important as the physical attraction. And communication is the vehicle through which seduction occurs. Mastering it can significantly enhance your seductive prowess. And what the most important emotion that you want to elicit, at least the functional part of emotions, is empathy. Empathy and understanding is one of our most attractive features, especially if you are a survivor and a resilient person and a strong person. If you have a strong personality, if you have an alpha personality with empathy, wow, that is a very important part of seduction. That can be a very powerful thing in your life if you want to be a seductive person, even if you're just collecting friends rather than physical relationships. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk about the communication of seduction. So come back. back, everybody. We're talking about seducers and seduction. Communication is a vehicle which seduction occurs, and the mastering of it can really enhance your seductive prowess. Things like listening skills are paramount. And it's not just about hearing the words being said, but truly understanding the meaning behind them. Understanding is a huge component. That doesn't mean you're looking to be right. The people that need to be right are the ugliest people on the planet Earth. If you want to be a person who is egotistical, narcissistic, and toxic, be a person that has to correct everybody for all of the little details that they missed. And you have designated yourself to be a total asshole. And there's a lot of people on this planet that are assholes. There are a lot of people that need to be right. But the real people, the seductive people, the people that are attractive, ugly or not on the surface, if they have the ability to understand another person, they have the ability to be attractive as a person. That means they can attract friends, they can attract lovers, they can attract all kinds of things because they care about another person. It involves paying attention to the tone of how a person is speaking, the body language that a person is eliciting, and what's left unsaid. And people that listen have insight, and people that listen and are tracking, when you feel that you are heard, that is called respect. Respect is what the essence of listening is. If you want to align with another human, you have to be a good listener. And many people suck at listening because they have to talk, 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 and tell you everything about themselves because their ego is so huge. And they have to tell you how to live your life, and they have to judge, and they have to be assholes. But the deal is that if you want to be a true human spirit, a really human person that is attractive, you are patient and kind enough to be curious about another person and to listen. And that means you're not listening to be right. That means you're listening to understand. There's another thing, the power of storytelling, especially when it concurs with something that is interesting to another person. Humor cannot be overstated in seduction, but a well told story can captivate your audience. It creates emotional connections, it makes you more memorable. Humor, when it's appropriate, can ease tension. It creates positive associations. It makes you more likable. And it's important to note that humor is highly subjective, and what's funny to one person may fall flat to another. And that's okay too. There's another law of attraction in communication, and it is hugely important. It's called mirroring. Matching techniques that can be powerful tools, and it involves subtly mimicking the other person's body language, speech patterns, energy levels. When done skillfully, it creates a sense of rapport and makes the other person feel more comfortable around you. For instance, in counseling, if you have a married couple and one is a high energy person and the other is a low energy person, what you probably want to do is go to the low energy person, mirror their speech patterns, their energy levels, their body language, and then that develops rapport with that person. The high energy person has been with that person long enough that they will adapt, and they will also mirror that energy because both of you and the person at lower energy are at the same level and building rapport. They want to be a part of that, so they slow down also. And that's how you develop a unification with a married couple. The impact is really important of voice tone and your body language. Voice tone is huge, especially for women or effeminate men. Women or effeminate men love your tone. They want to interpret everything you have to say by the way you say it. Men can't stand this feature because men want to be heard for the words they're saying, not the tone that they're using. However, most women and effeminate men get highly offended by your tone, by how you're speaking, how you're saying, no, what you really meant was this, and what you really meant was that. And they love to be mind readers based on tone. But tone is a way of communication. Tone is a very important component of communication, and it is a way that we have to be very careful with what we say, especially if we're saying it to people that we don't know. We have to be careful with our tone, and our tone will tell whether something is meaningful to you or not, whether you are hurt by something or not, by whether something is a very cautious topic or not, whether you're being more diplomatic and lying or not. All tone has a whole lot of inflections as far as what it can do to how you're interpreted. So you want to understand how you use your tone. If you're going to have an interest in seducing another person, your tone is what they're also looking for. You are really pretty. I'm just being silly, but using your tone can show that you are interested in them in the way that they want to be interested in you, and in the way they want you to be interested in them. By recognizing the things about them that you are interested in, the tone you use, meaning that something means something to you, that is very important to them. And that is part of what seduction is all about. So the sound of your voice can play a role in complex dances of seduction. And there's a thing called voice attraction psychology. That may be something you want to look into. But the impact of voice tone and pitch is another fascinating aspect of seduction. And a lot of studies out there have shown that we tend to find certain voice qualities attractive, often without even realizing it. For instance, women typically find deeper voices in men attractive, while men often prefer higher pitched voices in women. And this demonstrates how the sound of your voice can play a role in complex dance of seduction. And there's also voices that sound familiar. Familiar voices can be something in which we find attractive as people. So, looking at a deeper voice from a evolutionary perspective is going to basically say that you are a provider, you are a strong person, you're someone who people can depend on. If you're a male with a high pitched voice, that's probably not somebody you can depend on a whole lot. That's probably somebody that is interpreted differently. If you're a woman with a high pitched voice, that can be aggravating and seen as not a sign of intelligence. A woman with a lower pitched voice may be a woman who's seen and taken more seriously. So, women's role with their tone can also play a big role. But if a woman wants to be picked up by some idiot lunatic who is an alpha, then what she has to do is put her high pitched voice out there, and that lunatic who is a alpha will pick up on that and go, "Oh, I can seduce that girl because she's showing her vulnerability by her high pitched tone." And so we read this crap, and that is who we are as humans. Is it good or evil? No. Is it manipulation? Yes, but that's how we seduce. Avoiding manipulation and deceit is huge. While some degree of strategic behavior is inherent in seduction, crossing the line into outright deception and manipulation is only unethical but likely to backfire. So stalkers are horrible people because cyber stalkers especially will try to find every single thing about you that they're interested. They target at you and try to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And they take that information and they will use that to try to initiate a relationship with you. But what you have to understand is they get familiar way too fast. And so people that are trying to seduce you because you put a lot of content out there are going to find a way to do that with that content. And so social media has created a lot of destructive things for people that don't realize that people use your social content as a way to get in your pants or a way to get in your life or a way to get into your finances. They are finding a way to get to you, your soft spots, so they can target you and take advantage of you. It's also worth noting that seduction doesn't always have to lead to a one night stand or a short term fling. Balancing seduction with genuine connection could lead to more fulfilling long term relationships. Here's the deal. You have to think about this. Marriage is a huge proposition. And some people look at marriage as like an official relationship. It's a try, it's not a will. Marriage biblically is a will or won't, it's a covenant. But most people look at it as a try and an official relationship. And so when you have official relationships, as the vast majority of marriage, seduction still plays a role in people's lives, especially if they decide to have a huge amount of resentment and make their intimacy a battlefield. Now you've got two people in the loneliest place on earth. They're stuck with this turd that they're aligned with and they're legally bound to, and they are not interested in them because they have resentment. So intimacy gets destroyed. As we and these people in their loneliness, in their official relationship that they have, their contract of marriage, what often happens is people see that they see their loneliness and they become products of seduction. They become targets because people can see people that are lonely. We understand loneliness. All of us human beings understand loneliness. The problem is people get lonelier and lonelier and lonelier because they don't like themselves. And who likes themselves when they're sitting in a crappy relationship that they're half-ass committed to with some idiot, and they're stuck because half of their finances is in this dumbass that they married and bred with? And so as people go through life, they become very lonely because they don't take their commitments serious. And people that don't take their commitments serious are subject to affairs and subject to self-destruction. And people read that too. So seducers who are manipulators are very much in tune with idiots that allow themselves to be lonely, to have lots of money, and to be in a relationship that they're half-ass committed to. And yes, they can destroy that person's ability to thrive in life. They can actually cling on to that person and create a life out of their workings and their successes. And actually, they can now make a life for themselves by attaching to the idiot in their loneliest pocket. So it's really important to understand there's a lot of interplay having to do with seduction. Women often use seduction as a means to get to a soft target who has lots and lots of money, lots and lots of material wealth, lots and lots of security in their life, and they're deeply lonely. And they will take advantage of that. Also, women often get into that pocket, especially old widows who get lonely, and people use seduction to hurt them. So seduction is a very important thing to learn about because it can be a good thing to attract a healthy partner. And if you know what healthy looks like, if you know what you're looking for, or it can be a very destructive thing if you're a deeply lonely person who has a terrible relationship with yourself, has a terrible narrative about your own personal value. So, we find certain physical features attractive. Our personal experiences, our cultural norms can significantly shape our preferences. That's why attraction to older men or emergence of concepts like sapiosexuality, attraction to intelligence, can be understood through a combination of psychological and sociological issues. Initially at a young age, people are attracted especially to bodily features, a big old fat ass, or big old boobs, or big muscles, or big long legs, or strong legs, someone who takes care of themselves. All of these things can be aligned with physical attractiveness. It's not like you don't look at those things throughout the course of your life. But as you get older, if you can find somebody that matches your intelligence, that has a lot of things in common with you, and they take care of themselves, now you've got a real winner. The significant role, and what is attractive oftentimes why younger people like older people these days is because older people nowadays, though many of them are fat and out of shape with diabetic and all kinds of crap. But the other ones that do take care of themselves, the ones that know the value of living and know the value of their wealth and their life and their health, they want somebody younger because they start taking better care of themselves. They get off the drugs and the alcohol. They start taking their life a lot more serious. They start making better decisions. And as they do that, they become more attractive to the younger people. Younger people want somebody that takes their life serious, even though they don't take their life serious, because the average age of a person in their adult life now used to be 18. It's now 32. So maturity plays a huge role in people's abilities. And younger people in their 20s who don't know who the hell they are looking for somebody older who does know who the hell they are, has made a bunch of mistakes, and is ready to start their life over again. Stop doing the alcohol, stop doing the drugs, and taking better care of themselves. Knowledge can help us become better partners. Understanding psychological principles that play attraction in relationships. Toxic people. Toxic people. We have to be very aware of toxic people. And before you start seducing another person, you better understand whether or not that person's toxic. It's good to get to know people better before you start trying to seduce them. Trying to understand them first is the first step of seduction. And it's a very important attractive feature that you want to cultivate as a human being. Our understanding of another human being is the most comforting and safe place that all of us desire to start our relationships. Out of our insights, the psychology of seduction can come forward. Seduction can be very powerful. You could initially not be attracted to somebody, but once you've taken the time to understand that person, now they become more and more and more attractive. Understanding leads to attraction in another human being. Now, women understand that better than men. Women can make an ugly guy become very, very sexy simply because they start to look to understand that person. And once that person, that guy, that ugly guy starts to understand them, they develop a deep sense of attractiveness. Women get that. Now, men can do it too, but they're dumb and they like attractive on the outside and bipolar on the inside. And that's sad, but that's why they're so men are often less committed to relationships. Now, what we're finding is we're getting more sensitive men and more driven women. So now that is changing over time, and we don't know where that's going to land. But I will tell you this: once you're in a relationship, things will get resolved based on your level of commitment to each other. If you're half-ass committed, you're going to have a half-assed relationship. If you're fully committed, you're going to have a full relationship. But if you got one person that's half-ass committed and another person that's fully committed, now you got a problem because the committed one's going to want you always be more committed than you are. And people that are half-ass committed are a pain in the butt because you can't trust them because one side of them is debating whether or not to leave and the other part of them is debating whether or not to stay. That is not sexy. That is not going to be seduction. Seduction, if you're going to be a good seducer, you better be fully committed and stay there because people that are seductive and fully committed to seduction, and that's what oftentimes throughout the centuries, the people who were best at seduction were fully committed to the person that they were seducing. All right, we're going to take another break and come right back. Welcome back, everybody. All right, we're talking about the seducers and seduction. Here's what's interesting. If you lead into a conversation with, let's say, another human being, and you start talking about what kind of kisser they are, that is going to be an indicator that you are interested but not being too forward. That means that you are discussing something that's very intimate. Are you a passionate kisser? Are you a boring kisser? What kind of person are you? Do you care about, being touched? Having those kind of dialogues and a precursor to having sex in a date can be a very, very sexy conversation to have with other people, because people take great pride in their ability to kiss or to be, to care, to touch. What kind of touching they have to do. They think all the time about how good they are at it. So people like to brag about their abilities, and some people don't. But the dialogue itself is an invitation that you want to have something deeper with another person. Here's another factor that's very important to understand. The honeymoon phase of a relationship, if you look at the brain scan of a person in the honeymoon phase compared to the person in obsessive compulsive disorder, in the height of an obsessive compulsive disorder, I've got to clean that doorknob. I got to clean that doorknob because everybody's going to get sick. Obsessive compulsive disorder and honeymoon phase brain profiles look exactly the same. That means that person is heavily committed into that other person to the point that they are delusional. Honeymoon phase is the most delusional phase of all relationships. And people have to realize that when they're in that toxicity, they're going to defend that person at every turn. They're going to talk about how great that person is, how incredible. That person doesn't budget very well. I don't think they have very much money. I don't care. They've talked to me about it. We'll be all right. They're going to inherit $1 million or whatever. They may have some kind of disease, or, we've talked about that. We've talked about that. I don't think, we're going to be very careful about that. That person, I think they've had a lot of affairs before. I don't care about that. All I care about is where they are now. They're not like that anymore. You see, that's what the honeymoon phase does. And it's kind of sad, but people get caught up in that honeymoon phase and they start denying the reality of what may be in that other person. They start ignoring the red flags and the trust issues that may come forward in the future. And so what you have to understand is that obsessive trait is another part of seduction. Now, what are called borderline personality disorder people and narcissistic people want to get married within the first 2 weeks that they meet you. They are deep believers in you're my soulmate. And you got to be really careful about those people, because those traits that they're looking for, they want commitment almost immediately, because they want to start grooming you to be their partner. And that grooming means gaslighting. That grooming means they are very charming in the beginning, very charming, seductive people. But the deal is, on the backside, they're absolute assholes. They're absolute turds, and they will destroy you because they always have to put themselves first. So you got to be really careful with seductive people, because many seductive people are very, very strong narcissists and borderline personalities. Borderline personalities are even worse because they're highly sexual and they're highly destructive. They play devil's advocate on everything. They align with you and then they betray you. They align with you and betray you. Align and betray, align and betray, align and betray. That's all they ever do, because they got to keep everybody off balance so they can destroy everybody's life and their path and make themselves think they're the smartest people in the world, the greatest human on the earth, the most moralistic, wonderful person, when they're actually the biggest jerks you ever met, psychotic people, antisocial personalities who should likely be in jail for the rest of their lives. But unfortunately, borderlines are all over the place, and narcissists are also in that family. The psychology of seduction is a rich and complex field, and it offers valuable insights into human behavior and relationships. If you understand the principles, you can navigate your romantic life consciously and create more fulfilling connections. The goal of seduction should not be manipulation or conquest, but rather the creation of a positive, enriching experience for everybody involved. And as we continue to unravel the mysteries of attraction and desire, we have to use our knowledge to foster more genuine, respectful, and joyful interactions in areas of our lives. People who are consistent about their commitments are the most attractive people on the planet. People who state their opinions and stay there are attractive people. That means decisive people are seductive. People who know how to make decisions are seductive. Indecisive people are manipulators because they're always trying to be diplomatic. They're always playing every side of an issue because they don't know where the hell they're going to land. And so they just want to get the most benefit out of every single situation that they're in. That's called a politician or a Democrat. And so what we have to understand is that these kind of people, indecisive people, are very dangerous people in our life because they play the field. If you want safe people in your life, I don't care if you would consider I don't agree with you. Who cares about that? If you want someone to be safe, you at least know where the hell they stand. Where do you want to go to dinner tonight? I don't know. Where do you want to go? That's an indecisive person. So a decisive person is going to say, well, I would like this, that, or the other. Okay, now that's attractive because I can know how to love you. People that are decisive at least teach you how to love them. They don't demand that you agree with them, but at least you know how to love them because you know what they like and what they don't like. And that's a huge component of attraction. So, if you're a seductive person or a seducer or being seduced, seduced people are often very decisive people because people that are indecisive really appreciate the fact that somebody is a decisive person. They find that attractive. And so it doesn't matter if you don't agree. Yes, if you don't agree with the person, you may not want to seduce that person, but at least you know how to have a relationship with that person. Seduction often carries a whole lot of misconceptions. It's seen as a game of mere physical attraction. However, it's more understanding what truly captivates another person, creating a connection that transcends the ordinary. It's about the subtle dance of give and take, leading and following, the excitement that comes with it. What you want to have in a relationship, if it's true seduction, is reciprocity. What are you going to get out of it? And what am I going to get out of it? Are we both going to come out of it better and more positive people? At its core, seduction is an expression of confidence and a reflection of your understanding. And it's not just the other person, but it's also of yourself. It involves knowing your strengths and how to use them, recognizing the power of your body language, the impact of thoughtful gestures and words. The goal of seduction isn't manipulation or deceit, it's about creating genuine connections that help both people and call for deeper understanding of each other. That is the subtle art of attraction. So, understanding the psychology of seduction can become very important. It's rooted in the understanding of human attraction. Attraction is not just about physical appearance, it's also influenced by factors like confidence, charisma, emotional availability. And there's a lot of people who are not emotionally available. And if you're trying to seduce a robot, think twice. Robots are really hard to have a relationship with. If you're noticing that it's very hard to connect with someone on an emotional level, some people find that as a deep challenge. But I will also tell you that's an ingredient of trauma. There's a likelihood that that person is, if they're not emotionally available, has a lot of trauma. If you're trying to develop a relationship with somebody that is not emotionally available, you're going to be doing most of the work. And just realize that. If you're going to try to get in a relationship with somebody that's emotionally unavailable, they are not going to take your emotional cues very seriously. Another critical element in the psychology of seduction is a concept, once again, of mirroring. mirroring energy, tone, body language, very important parts of attraction. And also, the emotional intelligence calls for understanding and empathy. Now, I'm not talking about sympathy. Now, whiners and narcissists love people who sympathize. Sympathy means I'm going to lay in the problem with you and we're going to bitch and moan and whine about our problems. Whiners will suck the soul straight out of your body. If you're going to sit there and whine with another person, yeah, that person's awful. Ah, it's terrible. I can't believe we had that problem. Oh, yes. It's such a. If you're going to be one of those gossipers or people that sit around whining about their problems, yeah, I understand. No, empathy is where you give a person somewhere else to go. What can we do to resolve this? What do you think would be a good idea? Have you ever thought about doing this or that? Yeah, when I had that problem, I tried this and it worked. That is a problem solver. That's empathy. Empathy doesn't join the problem, it gives you a healthier place to go. Understanding the balance between mystery and transparency is also critical. So here's the deal: if you're going to be around a narcissist or a borderline, they are going to try to make you uh, align with their whining. They love to whine because they have to be victims all the time. If you hear victim themes for another person, you are hearing a narcissistic quality. Be real careful trying to seduce a narcissist. Because narcissists and borderlines are real easy to seduce because all you have to do is listen to them whine, and they find that as a very attractive feature because now they can groom you to be whatever they want. Then eventually they're going to guilt and shame you to become something that they need because you put up with whining. So, mystery and transparency is once again critical. Mystery sparks interest and intrigue. That means you have intelligence or a quality that other people may not have. You have an interest in something that most people don't have interest in. You have a different angle of seeing something that other people see. You have intelligence where you have worked hard to understand something where other people haven't. That is mystery. That's where deeper connections come from. Now, what you have to also understand is you can love someone and not trust them. But when you trust someone, love grows. And so people that value trust and integrity are the most attractive and safe people on this world. People that value their integrity. That is a huge component because nursing homes are full of people who did not manage their integrity because nobody ever shows up to see them anymore because their value is of little interest because you can't trust them. So the thing that keeps people attractive in this life, the most seductive quality in a human being is their value of integrity. And it's real hard to have lots of affairs if you have integrity. So the deal is people that conduct themselves well are the most attractive people on the planet. All right, that's our show. I want to thank everybody for listening. I love hearing from you. Libsyn is where we're located now, libsyn.com. And that's where our webpage is, Dr. Gary Bell's Absurd Psychology. Now, remember, how many people have you been around that you wished you were able to give them your next orgasm? Also, try suffering is being around someone who completely turns you on and you can do nothing about it. Also, for men, boobs and butts are magical diversions.